Wait, hold on.
And it's already. I can't wait. All right. Welcome to the Indie Corner, where we talk about all things independent comics. I'm Mikey.
I'm Lynn.
I'm Declan.
And I'm Matt. Lynn, what'd you want to say?
No, I was just saying my sister walked in, so the dog was going to bark.
Oh.
All right, so today is a new Indie Corner thing that we're going to do, another independent comic that's not Invincible. So, yeah, we are talking about the space opera, fantasy, epic romance ting, Saga by Brian K. Vaughn and illustrated by Fiona Staples. Declan, you want to tell like the viewers our sponsor for today?
Hand in hand sustainable hand sanitizer.
Yes. Keep those hands clean because COVID is terrible.
Yeah. Remember when everyone was saying to lower the curve? What was that old saying that we used to say?
Lower the curve.
Oh, flatten the curve. Yeah, that's what happened.
Not lower it, just keep it stable.
Just no extra. Just stop for a little while.
Well, all right. So brief rundown for anyone who doesn't know or heard of what Saga is. Saga is an independent comic published by Image that's been around since around March 2012, I believe. Written by Brian K. Vaughn, who's done a lot of good shit. Like, for example, I think he did
Why the Last Man.
Saga, of course. I don't know anything else. I think I know it, but
There's
I can't.
A lot.
He's done a lot of stuff. Like
he's well accredited.
Yeah, and he decided to do this book with Fiona Staples, who I'm assuming was unknown at the time. And her art is just
incredible.
Fucking amazing.
She's like my biggest inspiration.
Oh yeah, she's one of my inspirations for sure.
It's very unique. I've never seen art the same style as hers. Like it's not hard edged, but it's also not like soft. I guess if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
No,
yeah, for sure. And it's all done digitally. Like she's one of the when I think of digital art in comics, I always think of her. Mm-hmm. And especially when she does the covers, they're like digitally painted as well, and they're so well done. And I'm just like.
Her covers are amazing. Every issue. Beautiful.
So, yeah, we'll be talking about Saga. I believe who is doing the first issue is Declan, and we have visual aids because this book is very hard to describe.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of my own visual aids.
I mean, what?
I don't have visual aids.
No, I'll screen share. I'll screen share. It comes down to
Bring it up, but then after Declan will say his stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely gonna do the first page for sure. But anyway, just also for anyone who knows a fun fact, Brian K. Vaughn specifically made this book so that it would never be adapted into anything.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't want this book to be a live action TV series or animated or live action TV series or movie. So that's why, the creature designs of the world, it would be very, very difficult for them to do it and very expensive, which is the point of it. He just wants it to be solely a comic.
Very true.
It wouldn't be good outside of a comic setting.
I mean,
I don't think
animation. I think animation at most.
At most, but even that wouldn't do it justice.
I feel like with animation, it'd be hard to make the dialogue as fluid and comfortable as it is right now in the comic.
And specifically, with Fiona Staples' style, it'd be so hard to emulate that. It'd be completely different unless they got her to do it, which I don't think she would. It's a hard style to animate in general.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, Declan, do you want to begin the first issue? And I'm about to put up the first page right now.
Okay, so fair warning for the first page, I suppose, but basically the first issue it introduces us to Marco and Alana. So Marco was born on the moon of Wraith, and Alana was born on the planet Landfall. And basically what separates the two of them is Marco has horns and Alana has wings, and that's what separates the species as well, and that's why they hate each other apparently. So Marco and Alana are kind of star-crossed lovers. They find each other through a war, as Marco was a prisoner and Alana was a prison guard. Fall in love, have a child, and that child is Hazel, and she's born in the first few pages of the first issue. And as you can see through that wonderful image, it's not too pretty.
This is probably my favorite first opening page in any comic book I've ever read.
Yeah.
Childbirth?
It's certainly brave. I love how brave the first issue is.
Bold as fuck.
It's very punchy. Yeah.
So then after we're introduced to them and the conflict that their two species have, we're introduced to Robot. And Robot, as the name implies, is a robot who's a king. And basically what makes him a robot is he has a TV for a head. Very fun concept.
And these 2 pages are like the Landfallians, which Declan talked about with wings, and the Rethians who have horns.
Yeah, and as you can see, the 2 different cultures, the Rethians are very much so focused on magic, and the Landfallians are focused on technology, of course. And the monkey is just a monkey. He doesn't really have a backstory. And then after we're introduced to Robot, who is tracking down the couple for the Landfallian government, we're introduced to the Will. And the Will, his name is literally like first name or surname, and last name, Will. Funny joke.
Yeah.
Says he often introduces himself as the Will, as in losing my will to live. So then he's employed by the Wreath to try and hunt them down as well. So they have some mercenaries on both sides trying to stop their love. And that's basically essentially what we get in the first issue. So some of my thoughts on the first issue, I have quite a bit. I think the overall theme of violence, breeding more violence, is very interesting. Especially throughout the rest of the issues, you start to see that a lot of the family's misfortunes are caused by them acting in retaliation to them being hunted. They often make a lot of their own issues. And it's really reflected through Marco being a pacifist. He used to be a war soldier. Now he refuses to hurt anyone unless he absolutely has to. But something that I wondered, especially like having read the entire series and coming back to this, was like, how much of these issues are caused by violence versus Marco trying to be like wishy-washy between the 2 extremes? Like Marco wants to label himself as a pacifist, but then oftentimes takes up arms to defend his family, but then doesn't go fully through defending his family. And I feel like that's what causes the issues, is him trying to stay in between those 2 worlds and rather choosing one side. Obviously, Fiona's art is always a pleasure. It's very unique, and I think it does the impossible, which is matching Brian's intensity and the blunt way he tells his stories. The world that we're introduced to is just very unique. It's a nice mix of magic and science fiction that I've never seen been done before. Like Star Wars tried it, but like even then, like it's more so focused on the science than the fantasy. Like this, like there's 2 very distinct worlds. Like there are some panels in this comic that you can pull out and you would think it's from a fantasy novel. Like it's just a very unique dichotomy between the 2. I also like there's no clear rules between the magic and the science. The only clear rule throughout the entire series is death. Once you're dead, you're dead. But there's no rule of space travel. There's no rule of how projectiles work. Like they always give you just enough to make you intrigued in the world itself, but never enough to make you feel like it's not foreign, like you know everything about it. Something else, the speech. I absolutely love the speech. It always feels genuine, especially because it's incredibly hard to make it feel like characters in a comic book have chemistry when you can't hear their voice and hear their emotions. But I feel like Brian did a great job in conveying the best he could the emotions behind the words. And connecting to that, Marco and Alana's relationship also is very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always like they're not always a perfect couple, and oftentimes they're incompatible with each other.
Yeah. They're very different, like
Marco, especially their cultural upbringings. But that's why it's so fulfilling when you see them come together in those brief moments of love, because those moments are so hard to get to.
Exactly like you said, that they're star-crossed.
Right. And finally, I do love the use of robots species, especially his introduction to kind of subvert sci-fi norms. Like usually whenever there's intelligent robotic life, it's coupled with the question of like, can androids truly feel emotion, or can they think? We're introduced to Robot through him making love. Like it's very clear that Brian and Fiona are not interested in those standard sci-fi tropes. Like, and I feel like that's why they introduced Robot the way they did. Like, he's just a normal, average human being, and them wanting to be creative and making him have a TV for a head, which offers a lot of creative expressions through Robot. You can see his memories through his screen. That's more of a creative aspect than it is like an active choice in trying to make a new message for the world. Like this world has clear messages that it's trying to convey, and it doesn't want to be burdened by standard sci-fi tropes that have been done to death throughout history. Finally, I'd like to touch on like this comic has a lot of nudity, but it never feels like it's using it gratuitously.
Yeah, never like be provocative.
Right. Whenever it uses it, it's always to advance the plot of the story. And by doing that, it doesn't feel like it's like another, like The Boys. The Boys often used, which is another indie comic, they often use nudity and other shock values to elicit an edginess from their story. Whereas like when it's used in this instance, it feels more like it's trying to convey an advancement of plot or a more real world. Like there's a lot of stuff like the birth of Hazel or love or anything in this world that in other comics would be very one-sided, but they get past that one-sidedness by making it ugly. Like even beautiful things like the birth are so ugly in this world that it makes it feel real, because in real life those things are very ugly despite wonderful things. And I love that this comic wasn't afraid to tackle that ugliness head on. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right, so I'm just gonna piggyback real quick. Yeah, one of my favorite things I love about specifically the comic, to go into more detail, is the way the war works between Landfall and Wreath. Because I don't know if Declan explained, but like Landfall is this huge planet and Wreath is the moon planet, and they hate each other. So, but if like one destroys, say for example, say if Landfall wanted to destroy Wreath, they would have like consequences with like the gravitational pull in the atmosphere, and they all get killed. So like essentially, in order for that not to happen, they have to basically fight in the like outside of their like planets, just expand it to the galaxy instead, and cause other problems for people in various galaxies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's so interesting. And I'm just like, I've never really seen that before, where like in a war between two planets, but like they're just using the galaxy as like their battlefield instead of
the proxy battles.
I feel like there's very distinct parallels between that and the Cold War, where America and Russia couldn't wage war between themselves or there would be a nuclear holocaust. So instead they used Vietnam, instead they used Iraq, instead they used a bunch of these small proxy wars to try and assert their dominance over each other rather than going straight at it themselves. And I feel like that's also tackled later in later issues where we kind of see a glimpse of the higher ups not really caring about their hatred towards the other race, and it's more so for profit and power to keep the war going on rather than their ideals.
Yeah. I mean, as most wars are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, what else about the will? Like the introduction to the will, and for our audience, the will is a contractor, so like he's kind of like an independent, like hired killer. So like they all have like the surname.
I have a question about the contractors. Do all of them start with the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All, okay.
It's a common theme throughout all of the freelancers.
Yeah. So yeah, like
is it ever addressed in the comics? I mean, like I know we're skipping ahead quite a bit. No.
I think just everyone we're introduced to starts with the brand, the will.
And no one ever calls them out.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read all the way through, but I don't think it's ever really addressed. It's sort of just like implied that if you're a freelancer, that's the sort of title you get.
Yeah.
So right. It's possible to have like given names, but once you take on that job, like you take on a new
name.
title, the whatever.
Kind of like their union. We're never specifically showed the extent of how their union functions, but we know it's a very large political body on both sides that both sides seem to respect and fear. And that's what I love about their world building is how a lot of their structure is implied rather than specifically told. And I think there's definitely a magic to being able to dive into a world like Star Wars and know every small intricacy of every, like how droids are made, how the Force works. But there's also like beauty to having this world that you almost know nothing specifically about. It really makes you
kind of like the mystery of it. That's more than just being served a platter of information.
Yeah, I think there's a really good balance of that in Saga, that Brian knows how to give you the information that you do need, that you absolutely have to build this world, and then leaves the rest up to you to fill in the gaps and pick up all the clues that he's left behind to put it together. And there's something so satisfying about being able to read a story and connect the dots yourself. Like you feel a little bit like a detective trying to figure out how this world works.
Yeah.
And just to like go back just real quick involving the will, and I'm gonna screen share again. Literally, like also Declan missed one of the most important characters to this entire series, and he's one of my favorite. Is freaking Lion Cat.
Lion Cat's a girl.
With the will, because the will is a very gritty. He's a very typical gritty type of character. The monster. I describe him as like Bruce Willis type character. Essentially, and Lion Cat is like the best because if you can see right here, Lion Cat is his companion because I think most of the people in most of the contractors most of them like are required to have a pet or like a partner, and he has Lion Cat, and Lion Cat essentially when he senses that someone is lying, he knows when someone's lying. Essentially, he says lying. That's the only thing that he says lying, and I think
I get the pun.
I'm pretty sure, Mikey. I'm pretty sure Lion Cat's a girl.
Yes.
Is it a girl?
She's a girl.
I mean, they never say.
So Lion Cat, also something important to note is that Lion Cat's very much a sentient creature. Like Lion Cat has the same intelligence as the will. And it's a very common theme to have them undermine Lion Cat's intelligence, like because of how Lion Cat's physically formed to resemble a pet. When in reality, like they have humanity.
Does Lion Cat ever properly communicate? Because as we read,
no, he just says lying, and that's it when someone's lying.
All Lion Cat can say is lying. And again, it's a testament to Fiona Staples' art. The expressions that you get. I don't know, Mikey, if you have a screenshot of any of that.
I don't think so.
But you get these interactions where like exactly like you said, they undermine Lion Cat, and you just get a shot of Lion Cat's face, and she's just like, "Are we gonna say that while I'm right here?"
Yeah.
It's impressive with artists when it comes to animals because, one, you want the animal to look realistic, but two, animals aren't really known for expressing emotions to their faces. One example being the Lion King live action one, where all of them just have very monotone faces.
Yeah.
Something else interesting is like, so as substantial as this world is, there's also a lot of just coolness in this world, and I feel like we see a lot of that through the Will. The Will is almost like Batman if he had no moral compass. When he's fighting the that fire demon as like his recruitment tool, his cape is fireproof, bulletproof, whatever, and he has a utility belt. Like he threw gunpowder at that fire creature to try and combat the fire. Of course, he has this very cool lance sword that's almost like it's just a handle, and it has like a lance that stretches for infinity. And Fiona and Brian have created this world that like you just want to learn more about because there's so many cool small features, like the two main species, like Marco's species. The way that their horns work, like there's no clear distinction of how their horns form. So you have like people that look like rhinos, you have people that look like deer, and then Alana's species, like you have Alana has very small, almost like bug-like wings, but you have people with like eagle wings, like bat wings. Like it's a lot of these choices seem to be made just for the awesomeness of it, and that's also very cool, and it enriches this universe so much.
And another character I want to like quickly talk about, just a little bit more into detail, Prince Robot, because in the first issue, I find it very interesting. Like, I mean, obviously, like we know this book is bold as hell because they're introducing this man by him clapping, like he's just clapping cheeks with his wife, and I think it's like the funniest, boldest that could have just like okay, like, but it's for a reason because like they're trying to have a baby after because they say that like he's been in a very like big war, like he's been a part of the war because the robot family is essentially like they work for the Landfallians, and he was on a 2-year tour, and he said it was very like hectic and brutal, and you can tell by this because like as we said, he like his memories pop up, and you can tell that like when he's talking with his wife after like they finished like trying to like make a baby, you just see a bloody horn, and you just indicate that like just visually that like yes, something's wrong with him, like there's like he may have like maybe a form of like PTSD, which is thrown throughout the book when like they show what's on his screen. And essentially with this character, he just came back, he just wants to start a family, but then he has to report back his father, who's the king robot, wants him to like find Alana and Marco, who are fugitives, and and it's just like he's kind of like Zuko in a way, and he can't go back until he does it. Like I always compare him to Zuko, and it's just like I mean he's a very interesting character. I
think through him we also see an interesting theme through this book of moral relativity. Like you have to ask yourself, like, so his wife does get pregnant. Is Robot in the wrong for trying to kill Marco and Alana because he's only doing that to try and get back to his wife and his child? And equally, are Alana and Marco equally as bad from keeping him from doing that? And like, is the Will? Well, the Will is a monster, but like in the first 6 issues, that's not as concrete. Like, is the Will bad for going on a revenge spree because he lost someone he held dear? Like, there's all these very morally ambiguous threads that like there's no clear answer of who the antagonist of this book is, because while it's clear that the book's told through Hazel, it's about Hazel, but like I don't think anyone's the good guy.
Yeah,
you get that told to you by Hazel as well. Like through all of her narration, she's constantly just like, life is messy, nothing is clear cut, things kind of suck, and that's just the way life is.
Exactly.
So in that way, you're kind of prepped for all of the things that happen within this book, because you know nothing is guaranteed. You know, it's not a safe, you know, fun romp through the park. You know, it's
sometimes it is, and
sometimes you're just like wading through shit, and it's such a perfect allegory for just like how life actually is. It's just you there's no way of knowing. No one can tell the future.
Right.
Yeah.
I really like how we did the narration with Hazel. A lot of the times when I see narration, I always feel like it kind of pulls me out of it. You know, I never really like how it's done. But with this, it feels very natural, even with like the formatting of it. It's not a standard text bubble. It's just faded kind of in the background. It makes you feel like, oh yeah, there's just someone talking to you rather than this invisible character.
The narration is also used very creatively, where
very creatively, yeah.
Hazel might be saying something on a panel that foreshadows the future, but you don't know foreshadows yet. Then 20 issues down the line, that one line could be repeated after the thing it foreshadowed happened, and you're like, oh my god,
so good, and you cry for 5 hours after.
I mean,
damn it, you told me, I should have known.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting. Like, I thought this was like Brian K. Vaughn's decision to make it like the whole story, like essentially third person's perspective told through Hazel of how she interprets her life and like her journey and like her and her parents' journey, as well as who they come in contact with. And I think it's so smart. And I'm just like, it's very, you don't see that in comics nowadays, and you're just like, it makes you think. And especially when it comes to the stuff you're talking about.
You're getting
You're cutting out, Mikey.
I am. Ooh, sorry. Am I good now? Ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dope. Especially when what you guys talking about, like he'll reference something like an early issue, and then he'll bring it and he'll reference it again like 20 issues later, and you're just like, oh shit, like so smart. Like it's so smart, and it's just
it's also so torturous that this might be getting a bit ahead of what we're talking about, but have you guys ever heard of the idea of killing your darlings in storytelling? I feel like Brian takes that to the extreme, that whenever a character no longer serves a purpose in the story, they're gone. Like, brutally, which sucks. But
sometimes even when they still can fulfill a purpose, sometimes you know what? Fuck you in particular.
Should we move on to
the next fulfill what he wants to do in the future, I suppose.
All right, so that was a good talk on issue 1. Granted that all this discussion was needed because this book is a lot. But anyway, I'll talk about issue 2, and I'm gonna do it like brief synopsis style. That's how I'm used to doing things. But so essentially with issue 2, it's basically just about Alana and Marco and Hazel. They're trying to go to they're on Wreath, which is where Hazel was born, and it's a crappy planet that's like in the galaxy, like and being in conflict involved with the war, and they're essentially on their way to the rocket ship forest. And I love the rocket ship forest, but we're gonna go there later. But but essentially, like they're having a treacherous journey, essentially like through this treacherous forest on Wreath, and at the same time, not only the Wreath is on their tail because he's on their what?
It's Cleve.
It's Cleve?
Wreath is
Cleve. Sorry, we're on Cleve. We're not on Wreath. Because we're on Cleve. Cleve is where Hazel was born.
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially,
Wreath is a moon
that's where
is the main hub of Marco's people. Wreath is a prison camp for the Landfallians, which is Alana's people, and that's where they store prisoners of war.
Exactly. So essentially, like they're trying to like go through these woods of Wreath, and they, like with Hazel, and they haven't slept like at all, and like essentially, as I said, like as like Prince Robot on their tail, the Will's also on their tail because he just got the contract from the contractors. But also, like while they're in the woods, in the forest, we get introduced to another character who is a contractor that has that has personal connection with the Will that will be revealed, I would assume, like later on down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to pull up a screenshot. I'm gonna pull up a screenshot. And I'm going to actually.
This is not safe for work.
Yeah, it isn't. If there are any children here,
kids.
yeah, you
It's
have been
also very
warned.
creepy, by the way.
Yeah, in case you haven't caught on, this comic series is 18 plus. So
Yeah, word. This is not for children. Yeah. So while they're in the woods, and also they like I think I like those transition panels where like they like slowly fall asleep, and then that last one is when like the eyes. Yeah, they're not alone, and I love that. I think it's amazing.
Very good.
But yeah, while at night they encounter one of the other contractors, which is this woman known as the Stalk, and she is literally one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen.
Yeah, she gives me nightmares.
Like she's like just a pale woman on like Spider Woman, like and with no arms, and like but she has like crab
arms.
She has like crab-ish appendages.
Both no arms and many arms at the same time, which I didn't think was possible.
It's very interesting how Fiona can capture how grotesque, like in real life, this would be. Like in any other comic, it'd be like a kind of cartoonish, sanitized, but like Fiona took the full dive in making this just gross and disgusting. And I feel like it's interesting. I read a rundown of how Brian and Fiona would make these disgusting creatures, and Brian would basically write like, say they're in the future, there's like this big giant fat cyclops that they have to fight. Brian literally all he wrote for that was like giant cyclops of your worst nightmare, and Fiona is just like given free will to make it as gross as her mind can imagine.
Like, and also I don't know if I'll be able to pick this, or if the camera will pick this up, but I actually have the first book, and so I've got some of the like concept art of the Stalk. Oh.
Well, let me stop screen sharing. Let me go. Ew.
Yeah.
Like. Nah. I mean, it just comes to show
has arachnophobia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're welcome to whoever's fetish this is.
Someone just had something awoken.
Honestly, but yeah, it just like the creature design and like the alien design comes to show that like they don't want this to be adapted.
You're muffled again.
Oh, I am sorry.
Yeah.
I said that like essentially. Let me repeat that. It comes to show with the creature design and the alien design that like they don't want this to be adapted, so they'll make it very difficult for them to do so. Because like, how can someone make a freaking woman with crab appendages and spider eyes and arms and
it would look god awful in CGI.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they had the budget of Marvel Studios, but might be a Thanos situation.
But anyway, after they encounter the Stalk, essentially, they show that panel that I just showed where like she has all the guns and all these weapons and stuff like that, and she also essentially like has this like tongue thing that like pierces Marco, and he's like, it's a needle, right, that comes out of her mouth.
Yeah, I don't think it's because she has a normal tongue. You can see it, and then there's just something that shoots out of the back of her throat.
It's a very sharp uvula.
The tail of a manta ray. That's like the shape of it.
Please never say those words again.
Okay, but anyway, she injures Marco. He's like bleeding out essentially, and then out of nowhere, like you just hear like laughter or like this like not laughter but like ghost noises, and she's like, "Oh crap, it's the horrors!" And essentially, they're like, and I love how like Brian K. Vaughan writes it's like so like every person that's been on Cleve has a different interpretation of what the horrors are. Like she like I remember like the Stalk describes it as I literally saw these guys the horrors. They literally like they killed the guy pulling his spine out of his urethra. I'm not lying because I saw that. And then like, but it's also like, and I think it's very interesting, but also like shows like when we know who the horrors are, like if there's a reason why they're different interpretations of them. But then exactly. Yeah, so then we cut, so then like she's like, okay, deuces, I'm not even gonna bother, I'll just like collect your corpse because like I don't want to encounter these people. But essentially, but also the rewind, I love this scene where like when the stalk encounters Alana and Marco, and then she takes out Marco. Alana puts her gun that she carries to Hazel's head, and she was just like, because their orders, if we didn't mention before, their orders that like the Landfallians have and like the contractors have and whatnot, that like they can kill Marco and Alana, but they're not allowed to touch Hazel. Like Hazel has to be brought in unharmed.
I think, is Robot under that same contract as well?
Yes, he is.
Oh, really?
Well, all of them are, because both parties are interested in what's going on with this hybrid child, because there are rumors that children have been born between Landfall and people from Wreath, but that they've always like died within a week, because they couldn't handle being alive.
And a week has passed, so like Hazel's still kicking.
At this point, I think it's only been 3 days.
Oh, really? Okay.
The maximum was a year that a child was able to survive.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. So, but essentially, she literally puts the gun up to her head, and she's just like, "You wouldn't," and like I think it's amazing.
Alana puts it up to Hazel's head, her daughter.
Hazel's head, yeah.
Well, because what makes it incredible is the gun that Alana has isn't like a normal gun. It's called a Heartbreaker, and it's essentially just a stun gun. So she's
the small gun from Men in Black.
Yeah.
Oh, like the cricket?
Yeah.
Yeah. She threatens the stalk with it, and the stalk's like, "That's not even going to break my skin. Like, try me." And then Alana goes, "Oh, true, but I could kill my own child, and then you won't get her."
Yeah,
because it's a badass move because she's bluffing, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel not only is she like, she was bluffing, but I feel like she would have actually done it, because like.
Worst comes to worst, I think she would have, but I think she would have tried to run before.
Because I feel like the way it's written, like Brian K. Vaughn makes you like feel that like, okay, in a motherly situation, like as this one, like you would rather have your own child be killed and not be like taken, and it's like
the exact words is, "You don't think I'd do whatever it takes to save my only child from ending up with a cunt like you."
And then she answers like, "Damn, bitch," I thought it was great.
Take a deep breath. But it's also cool because, and again, just the expressions that Fiona draws, it's so freaking cool. You get a shot of Alana, she's looking kind of down but like up at the stalk, and you just see like the bags under her eyes. She's exhausted. She's at her brink. Like she's willing to do whatever it takes to protect Hazel.
Something else I love is like how they play with the standard relationship of how comics function between like the man and the woman in the relationship. Like usually the wife's the damsel in distress, but oftentimes we see the husband in the damsel in distress because Marco refuses to participate in violence, whereas Alana doesn't give a shit. She just which I think is very cool, like how they kind of flip that on its head.
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, like they're we've mentioned before, their relationship isn't perfect. It's a little bit dysfunctional, and they,
it's bound to get worse.
I think it's just really interesting how both of them written is they're not written as a couple. Like there's a lot of things that you'll read that you get couples in there and they're just kind of one unit, and that's all of the personality they have is that couple. But Alana and Marco are both distinct entities. And
I mean, I really love. I like how like it's very different from what we see, because like I love how like Marco is the more reserved, like doesn't want to get involved in shit type of person, but then Alana is very like tough, headstrong, like impulsive at sometimes, and it's very interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic and a very different dynamic that I like really appreciate. Yeah, but okay. So right after the stock dips, eyes we see those eyes come back again, and then essentially we're gonna essentially see like these horrors and like these people that are killing motherfuckers and just like ripping spines out of your urethras and it's like but then next thing you know the horrors just look like they just look like these kids that like
they are kids. Oh, for anyone watching, I don't know if the quality is going to show that, but those are intestines.
Yeah,
she doesn't have legs. Isabel, the ghost up front.
Yeah, but then I love that. I love that little twist, like that twist that like they're not really mom, they're just the ghosts of children.
They're literally children.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love about like Saga. Like, if for our readers who obviously don't have the book in front of them, every issue begins with a splash page and ends with a splash page. So like it starts with something good and then it ends with a twist every issue.
That's an interesting. I didn't even notice that.
Incredibly bad.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think it's great. But yeah, these are the horrors and their ghost children, and that's how issue 2 ends. So yeah.
Do you have any closing statements about it? I feel like we covered a lot in the middle of it.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, do you want to say anything, Christian?
No, I'm good. I guess we just move on to the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, issue 2 is not like a super plot heavy like chapter. It's a lot more introductions.
It's filler.
Yeah. And filler, yeah.
Just jumping into book 3, Alana is introduced to these ghost children, and it seems like the leader of this group, Isabel, the ghost girl without her legs, is making her introduction. She's explaining that all those horrors were all just illusions, and that they're ghosts because the small group that they are have this weird religious thing where when they die, they get to become ghosts and protect the land, even though she really wasn't about it. Isabel, the ghost girl. What else can I say about it? Oh, she wants to help out with Marco, who is currently dying. Yeah. Alana's really not into, ghost people trying to help her man's out, even though she's dying. But Isabel seems super like, I don't want to be here with these people.
Well,
get me away.
For Isabel to help them, she's demanding that they let Isabel possess her daughter.
Well,
yes,
not
exactly.
like possess, but like
really take care of it. See, the thing is about it is she wants to be around the daughter. I guess a good way to describe it is possession, but in actuality,
imprinting. Like she's
more imprinting. And the whole point of it just so she could leave the area that she's in now, right? She just needs, I guess, some type of host, and she's only going to be visible during the nighttime.
Lynn, were you going to say something?
No, I was going to say a better way to describe it is not so much possession or imprinting. What it is like it's like a link between souls.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to describe it.
Becoming a familiar.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, so the way that Isabel describes it is that she has to be bonded to the soul of someone who was born on Cleve.
Yeah. So after introductions, obviously they have to help Marco out because he's kind of has a one extra hole than he used to have. And the way that they are trying to figure out how to do it is this healing spell that he knows. But in this world, you need ingredients in order to create spells. So for this spell to work, he needs access to snow. And I'm not sure how many doctors are out there, but the trip is pretty long and he doesn't have a lot of time to survive. So Elena just becomes beast out of nowhere and carries Marco on her back up this big ass mountain along with Alana. With Isabel, because I guess they decided to be cool with her now and have her be
also carrying her daughter, by the way.
Exactly. While also carrying her daughter. Yeah.
And only having like 30 minutes of sleep in the last 3 days.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it's out of nowhere. I mean, she was
no
a
sleep,
soldier.
right?
I mean, they slept for a little bit.
They slept for a little bit, and that's when the stock showed up.
Oh,
they like passed out. So she's probably got like 30 minutes of sleep at this point, and she just picks him up, throws him over her shoulder, baby in one arm, Marco over the top, and just books it.
Yeah, this is really emphasizing how much of a fucking beast she is.
She's incredible.
Like you mentioned before, just like I guess the gender roles are switched, where she's just an absolute beast and Marco is around, even though of course he can hold his own.
What's interesting is like a brief like tangent is like this universe doesn't seem to have strict gender roles. Like it seems like the draft happens whether you're male or female. Like soldiers aren't segregated. The only place we actually see like actual gender stereotypes happening is robots civilization, because they're largely like feudal. They're a kingdom, so it seems like they're holding up a hierarchy of having like a king and a queen, all that. Like, but it's interesting how largely in most of the world there's no real.
Ironic how the robots are the ones that align with us the most.
True.
Well, I mean, it makes sense when you think of it from a design standpoint, because computers are very systematic, binaries, ones and zeros.
Yeah.
It makes sense that they would have a very strict structure. Even though they are feeling things and being very human, there's sort of like a necessity to fall in line.
I also think it's kind of based off of the way their government's set up, where like they have this king that's in charge of everything, and you can only be a ruler if you're male. I'm pretty sure it hinted in the first issue that Robot wanted his first heir to be a male. He asked like what gender the baby was, and she said they'd love it no matter what gender it was. And Robot was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, he does one of those like, "Yeah, of course."
So deep, nuanced opinions on this. For viewers, I read this like a week ago. Everyone else here has already gone through what? It's like 50 books.
I've not read too far.
54.
Like
you not read too far.
Yeah. I've read all 54.
Yeah. The notes that I made was one, oh, that's weird how the main character is finding pleasure from childbirth. Two, haha, TV robot. That is the extent of my analysis so far. But just listening to you guys, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, like I'm getting a new perspective on this.
Right? Yeah, I'm learning a lot about this. Being a new person entering it, it really is making me excited to learn more.
It's an experience. It's really,
and I'm going to use that as a segue just to add a little bit more, and then Deacon, I'm going to let you talk. So the stalker has the interaction with the will. I think this is like the first time they interact so far, right? And where it's teased that they have a relationship with one another, and she's offering the will to help with the bounty because it seems like it's going to be a hard time for her. And
they had a relationship.
Past tense.
The stock cheated on him or wasn't aware of the boundaries of their relationship, and that led to the will getting upset and breaking it off, I think.
Yeah. And for our viewers, it's very difficult to imagine the way the will looks as I've shown on the screen and like the stock being together. And it's just you look at that, you're just like,
love is fine. God, Mikey.
I mean, unfortunately, you do get to see them being together in future comics, which is not not fun visual.
I was joking about that. This sounds really gross. I really don't want to see that. Where does it go? Where does it go?
Oh God.
There's a lot of things in this comic that you're like, I really didn't need to know this, but you put that in there, Brian Vaughn, and I guess I have to deal with this now. It's forever in my psyche.
All right, continue.
Of course. All right, so now we go back to the main group with Marco, Elena, and Isabel, and they make it on top of the mountain. and they get to this boat where Marco starts mumbling to himself about his secret love named Gwendolyn, and obviously Elena's very concerned and confused because they're kind of married, and when your husband's whispering other women's names, your mind tends to wander to things that are negative.
Here it is.
And that concludes. Oh yeah, perfect. That concludes book 3.
Yeah, part of the issue is he uses specifically the words "tell my bride I loved her," and then says Gwendolyn.
And Gwendolyn, and she's like,
I'm
"Who
sorry,
the
who?
fuck is Gwendolyn?"
And you also jump past the part where Alana agrees to let Isabel.
Yeah, I got that one too. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Hold on, right here. Where she and Prince offers to link their souls together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a beautiful.
Very interesting. Like, it's very interesting how beautiful some of the magic looks, despite how disgusting like the background to that magic is. Like here we see these golden beams wrapping around a infant and this ghost, but then you also see like the ghost's intestines falling out. Like, it's interesting how like in one scene there could be something so beautiful and something so gross, and it makes it feel so much more real because like that grossness just doesn't go away because it's an epic shot. Like that grossness is still always going to be there.
Yeah, it's very much a decision, and like that's something that we talk about in art a lot, because for people who are new here, Mikey and I are both art majors. You are making the image. Everything is intentional.
Yeah.
So Fiona could have very easily made it so that swooshy, glowy magic hid that bottom half where her intestines are coming out, and it would have made like a beautiful, perfect little scene. But she didn't. She knows the purpose of the story and the way that they're trying to tell it, and she goes, no. This is how this kid looks. We're including it. We're not gloss over that.
Just to put the image back up real quick. Yeah, like you can definitely tell like Fiona definitely like as what to piggyback off what Lynn said, like there's a purpose for what she's doing. Like as a comic book artist, you can't just have artwork that doesn't make sense. You can't just drop it. Like you have to make it intricate to the plot and make it mean something. It has to be technical, you know.
Well, so, as a good comic book artist.
Yeah.
There are many.
Yeah, there are many artists that always stray off that path. Yeah, but I mean this scene right here is so well done. Oh god, so good. Like I love like the swooshy line and like her touching Hazel and stuff. I think it's so good. So good. Anyway, but I just want to mention 2 other things that like we gloss over that I think are really important. That so we didn't mention the book, and the book is also like the book that is very important, and I forgot to mention it in when I talk about issue 2. No, but essentially, what happened?
That was in 3.
That was but it's also in 3. But it's like was it discussed in 3 or introduced in 3?
It was introduced in 3.
Okay, but essentially what happened is that like so the way Lana and Marco met, Alana was a prison guard on Cleve watching war prisoners, and Marco was a prisoner. So like, and essentially like it was an issue 2 when Prince Robot lands on Cleve, you know, to like start his investigation. He comes across a person, a soldier that worked with Alana briefly. Like she said they didn't have a relationship. He just knew her from the mess halls. And she mentioned a book that was like, she loved to read, but she loved reading this particular book. And so he's like, "Do you have a copy?" He's like, "Yeah, I do." So then essentially he's gonna read this book in order to like get into the mindset of what like Alana and like Alana's thinking to like to predict like where they may go, because they could be anywhere in the galaxy. So it's a perfect way to track. And then we find out that like this book is just a crappy romance novel. And it's like the typical one where like I think they describe it in here. It's like, you know, the one with like a half naked male and like, you know, like they're just doing like a dramatic pose on the cover, and like a Fabio book,
Yeah,
like a Fabio book,
it's
essentially.
called a nighttime smoke, and like the woman's like pressed against him, her hair's flowing in the wind, like it's
exactly.
so funny.
And there's a cover for Saga that literally like is a swipe of this, and I love it. It's my favorite Saga cover. But yeah, essentially,
with the zebra.
It's funny,
Yeah.
like jumping ahead a little bit. I'm pretty sure when Alana meets the author, she starts discussing like the deeper meaning of the book, and the author's like, no, just
the best things.
Yeah, but
we'll get to that in a later
another episode. But yeah, it's just this crappy book, and even like the sort is like, I can't believe people read this shit. Like it's just, which is how we usually think. Like when it comes to like crappy romance novels, I think it feels like that scenario. It feels so real, and for a world that isn't real, and I love it.
There are probably people that saw the first page of Saga and thought that.
Yeah, exactly. This book is bold as fuck. But also, so the book is important. The second thing I want to mention, which and Lynn has to do the next issue for, is a place that the wants to go to, because he doesn't like he does. I don't remember the reason why. I think he's just tired of this shit. Like he's just like, ugh, I need to like wind. I don't want to. Because the person that gives him the contract gives him a white card, which essentially like it's a card with a lot of fucking money, which is supposed to like essentially cover his expenses. Yeah, it's supposed to cover his expenses and accommodate him throughout his entire journey tracking Marco and Alana. And he's like, you know what, screw this. I'm just gonna waste all of this on the Sextillion. And if you can get what the Sextillion, like it's basically like a brothel. It's like a
entire planet. That's a brothel.
In the fourth one, so.
Yeah. But
so just segueing.
Yeah, so we're just gonna segue into that, and I have the first page for that shit too.
Oh boy, I hate the first page so much. Thank you.
All right. So Lynn, whenever you are ready,
I'm ready.
I will. Yeah. All right. So.
All right, so we get to chapter 4, which opens with the will arriving at Sextillion, which, as Mikey said, is just this massive brothel. This is probably one of the weirdest chapters.
It's so goddamn much.
This makes me so uncomfortable.
Did you ever see that Family Guy sketch where Peter is walking down the street in the dress, and he said, and someone catcalls him and says, "Do those legs go up all the way?" And then the dress blows away, and it's just Peter's legs going all the way up to his chin.
Exactly. I don't watch Family Guy, but that sounds accurate. So essentially, he arrives. They tell him he can't bring any of his weapons and stuff, and he needs to leave like collateral. So if he doesn't end up paying, they have something. So he leaves the white card with them. And this chapter jumps back and forth between him doing his shenanigans at this place and Alana dealing with the fallout of Marco.
All right. Should I show the other page?
No.
Which other page? I don't know what you have.
The one with the Will walking down the stairs?
No.
Not yet. And you probably shouldn't, because I'm pretty sure YouTube will take our video down.
I saw Comic Pop do it, so I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If you have like a censored version, I
don't.
Too much.
Just throw some emojis over.
A censored it will just not show it at all in that case.
Yeah, I would say let's be safe. Not get our live stream taken down.
Let's sanitize this a little bit.
So we jump back to Alana and Marco. Marco wakes up, and Alana is rightfully pissed, and she's relieved for a second that like he's fine. She gives him a kiss, and then immediately after she goes, "So Gwendolyn,
as you do,
who the fuck is she?" And you jump back to Sextillion, and you just get the what Mike's saying to show is just people having sex.
It's just sex everywhere.
A winged orgy, if you will.
That's accurate. If there is ever a moment in this comic where the nudity and like sex is gratuitous, it is here, and it is on purpose.
On purpose,
because these places are gratuitous.
You're meant to be disturbed.
Because
you should feel ashamed while you were flipping through these pages. Like when I first read through this, I was reading it in the living room with my roommates, and I went, "Oh God, this isn't what you think. I didn't pick this out for this reason. I swear."
Mom,
I can explain.
I mean, like, I find it very like I wonder how like Brian like writing the script was had to like tell Fiona how to draw it. It's like, okay, just every type of sex imaginable, put it on one page. And I wish I could put it on for our viewers to see, but unfortunately, we don't want to get our video taken down. Even though I saw another YouTuber do this shit, and they were fine. But
I really wish that you picked the sword with the dildo strap on.
Here's the thing: if you are incredibly curious, and you for some reason are watching this without having read Saga, read Saga. You'll see.
There are definitely people who are watching this that haven't read Saga, so.
Yeah. Which we probably should have prefaced this with major spoilers for the entire series. Because we're going to go do a synopsis issue by issue.
Yeah.
So some things are going to come up. And
Voldemort dies at the end.
Did you say Voldemort dies?
Come on.
You know what I'll do? I'll pull a Fight Club at the end. So like I'll just flash it at the end of the podcast just briefly.
Second.
Anyways, so the Will looks super disinterested the entire time he's walking through. And he comes across this dude who's like, "Hey, you don't look like you're having a fun time. Can I interest you in something else? Something a little grittier?" Then you jump. Yeah, I do too. It's awful. You jump back to Alana and Marco, and Marco explains that Gwendolyn was his fiance back when he was still living on Wreath, and he was still a soldier. He was trying to do his like good deeds as a son and marry a nice woman and live a cookie cutter life. And once he started seeing battle, he was like, a lot of this is not my jam, so I'm gonna dip. See you guys never, and just and left and became a pacifist. And then he gets captured and ends up a prisoner. But he explains that he's like, no, I don't have any feelings for her anymore. I loved her once, but I'm married to you now. You also find out that their wedding rings are actually the wedding rings of Gwen's grandparents.
Because I thought that was so funny.
It's so funny, and it's not that he was being cheap and was like, I don't want to buy new rings for my new wife. It's their translator rings. So Gwen's grandparents didn't speak the same language, so they had the rings enchanted so that they could understand each other. And so Marco was like, okay, no, this is smart. Like I'm gonna use these.
We can use these.
Yeah.
Something interesting is that I saw in the first issue was when they refer to language, like there's no name for it. Like Star Wars and Star Trek have like common or like whatever. Like they just refer to it as language. So to each side, that kind of insinuates that like the other side are these beasts that don't even have a way of communication. Like when Marco talks to the Landfallians, they're like, he could speak language, not he could speak our language, not he.
Yeah, that's the thing though, is the language of landfall is called language. The language of Wreath is called blue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because when and I'll talk about it when we reach chapter 6, but someone shows up and he's like, hey, can you please let the translator rings like do their job because she doesn't speak blue.
Gotcha. That was something I missed.
It's called blue or also Mooney.
Okay.
Yeah, and like
X is blue when they speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if for anyone who's gonna read Saga, if you notice, like the Landfallians refer to Reithians as like Moonies, and essentially it's essentially the N word for Reith, and it's like.
Sure, but they also use it for the language as well.
Yeah.
Just wrap it all together. It's like, let's be as offensive as possible to the people we're fighting.
Exactly. All right.
So yeah, you get through all of that. Marco sticks his foot in his mouth by saying like, "Oh no, you're more beautiful than her anyways. Like her hips were boyish, and like you're gorgeous." And he's like, "You want to get stabbed, don't you?" And then we cut back to the whale again, and this dude's leading him to what's called the inner core, and takes him to a special room, opens the door, and you get a full splash page of a 6-year-old girl. And immediately you're just kind of like, oh shit, this is not going to happen. And Will also is not having any of it. And he's like, how old is she? The guy explains, and she says, I'm 6 and I'll do anything you want. And he goes, then close your eyes. The guy assumes that he's trying to like get him involved in it, but instead what he does is just like claps his hands over the guy's head, and it just splatters.
The only time throughout the entire series I actually liked the Will.
Yeah, it's the one good thing he does is he doesn't let them
just with his hands crushes
this man's skull.
Mortal Kombat fatality crushes his
exactly. And of course the girl's super grateful. You jump back to there's a lot of jumps back and forth in this chapter. You go back to Alana and Marco, and Alana senses that something's off. She's like, grab your shit, we gotta go. And this massive ship just comes up, and she's like, we've got to run, but they're already here, so maybe we convince them that you're a prisoner and I've caught you. And he's like, nope, last time we almost got killed. I'm breaking my vow of pacifism. And I don't know if we mentioned this before, the on the sheath of his sword, he's had it chained up so that he can't use the sword.
I actually didn't notice that.
Yeah. It's at this moment you get a close-up of the sword, and he pulls it out and the chain breaks.
I love this.
See him use a sword. He pulls it out. The splash is gorgeous because the sword.
I regret not putting that on the slideshow because like it's so good.
Every full splash for each issue because it's absolutely incredible. And he just says, "This is the last time I'm using this. We're gonna fight."
It's got on a Google image.
Fucking useless ass chain. If we literally had to do was
Is that why he refers to himself as like, was that a spell that he put on, and by breaking it he talks about how he cursed his family after?
It wasn't a spell as much as it was a vow, and I think that's why it was easy to break. It's not a super powerful chain. It's about the belief behind it. He was like, I shouldn't have to use this.
It's like a religious symbol.
Yeah, even if it's easy to access, even if it's easy to break this chain, it's my willpower not to use it.
Mm-hmm.
It's symbolic.
Yeah. And that's the sword.
I'm like trying to find like that page because it's so good.
I mean, I have it here.
Yeah, just if you could like angle it maybe to your camera to show the viewers, it would be, oh god, it's so good. Yeah, that's the page right there. So good. Like I was just so good. Like
the like fighting scenes are so few and far between, but when they happen, it's just so cool. Like part of it's cool, part of it's horrifying, because like when Marco, he has a blade that when he like swipes or slashes, it sends a like blue beam out, and that's the main form of weaponry for his species. Like they often use magic to fight against the Landfallians, but like physical magic is very taxing on a body, so they use weapons instead that are enchanted with magic. But like when you see that like blue slash someone, it actually like dismembers them. It's not like a Dragon Ball, like, oh, I'm hit, now I'm gonna like fall and I have a scorch mark. Like it's just a straight cut. And like they don't spare any expense in like the gore, and it's very messy, but also like because of that, it adds this sense of like heaviness and sense of severity to the fights. Like at any moment, any of those weapons could easily kill Marco or kill Alana. Like, there's no filler in the fights. Like, it's not a Marvel comic where they're punching each other for 10 pages. Like, it's like a 1-page like shootout, and that's it. Then the shootout's done. Like, there's not like, yeah.
So any other thoughts with this issue? I'm gonna say one thing that I love a lot, and it's like essentially when Will like thunderclaps that man's head. That what the narrative with S.H.I.E.L.D, I love this so much, and it's basically she's like, I'm just gonna read off of the comic, and it's like, should I read like all 3 panels? Yeah, I'll read
all 3 panels.
Yeah, okay. So then she basically says, the Will wasn't the first bounty hunter to come after my parents, and he wasn't the last. Like every freelancer, I had the misfortune to eventually meet, and he was a fucking monster. But as my family was about to learn, some monsters are worse than others. And then that's when it shows like that when she says that last thing, that's when it shows the girl that he just saved embracing him. And it's just like, wow. Like basically, I mean, I don't know what happens to the Will. Like I mean, granted, Declan doesn't seem to like him, and Lynn doesn't seem to like him. Like, they know what goes down. I didn't get that far into it yet, but like,
so, I don't think this is a spoiler, but his character arc is very much so a descent into villainy. There's a narrative.
I mean, you already start to see it. Like,
right.
As the things are, he's resigned is the thing. His motivations are
like a common like mechanic in storytelling is like the line that a villain has to reach to be considered a villain, like the almost like the breaking point or the one action he does to be irredeemable. Like Joker's was the killing of the people on the subway in the Joker movie, or like Zuko's before his redemption was betraying Iroh and choosing to side with his sister in Avatar. Throughout the entire series, it's a buildup of him reaching that point, and you know it's inevitable. Like, even from the first few issues, you know that's where it's leading, and that's like the torture, is seeing sparks of humanity in the Will and seeing him ignore those sparks and go deeper and deeper into his decline.
Stop making me so excited to read this. I have shit to do. I don't have
Everyone has to read it.
But I mean, it's kind of been like mentioned, like, yeah, you guys know that like he goes on a bad path, but like just describing him as a monster kind of like hints at that later on, like, you know.
Oh yeah, she doesn't use that word lightly.
Yeah,
there's a reason why it's in all caps.
Yeah, and it's especially because Hazel has so many people after her in her life. Like her entire life is spent on the run. You know, it's like she said, she runs into all of these different freelancers, so the word monster carries weight.
So
she also mentions how throughout her life there are a lot of men that wanted to hurt her, but what was the exact phrasing?
Oh shoot, I don't.
There are a lot of men that wanted to hurt her, but essentially Will was the only one that actually like destroyed her. I think is like it had a bit more gravity, but like because it was a scene after we saw a robot and after we saw who's also tracking her, and she was like,
again, spoiler, so we're gonna stop there.
Yeah. Okay, so that's issue 4. Who's doing issue 5? I like totally forgot.
I think we just assigned the 4 issues. We can do 5 and 6.
Talk about 5.
Okay. Like I said, I would take 6.
You would take 6, yeah, 6. So wait, so does anyone want to do 5?
You do 5, Mikey.
Let me.
That's fine.
Right. Okay, I'll do 5 then.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, with 5, it just cuts to Prince Robot on the toilet talking to his wife.
reading the book though.
Reading the book that you're reading the crappy romance novel that that was given to him, that was Alana's, to get insight on tracking her, and essentially it's revealed that to his wife that his wife is now pregnant, and that like his father basically stated that he cannot go back even to see his child be born until he tracks and like kills and brings the child back alive. And it's just like, that's where you know this boy is literally Zuko. He's on the Zuko path right now. Then
Zuko was also a psychopath.
Yeah. So then it transitions to what we saw on the last splash page of issue 4. These landfallians have tracked have encountered Alana and Marco. Marco's unsheathed the sword, ready to fight, essentially. And I like this a lot because Marco literally is like, I don't want, like, guys, we don't have to fight. I don't have to use my sword here. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't want to, but like I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family. And then and I love the fact that it's like the landfallen soldiers just like, wait a minute. So it's just the Wreath guy that we're killing, right? Because she looks like one of us. I think she may be cool, but they have to check in to make sure that like they have to kill all of them, which I love. So
well, they think that Alana isn't one of them. They think that they're using a disguise spell on Alana to make them sympathetic, which kind of shows like the amount of mental manipulation that the foot soldiers are being fed to hunt them down. Like, there's obviously a fear from the government that like this is a bad thing because it could stop our war, or it could harm the fuel of our war, showing that like the two sides could not only fall in love but be compatible in producing an offspring together.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they get their orders. They start shooting. Marco uses his awesome energy sword to like block the bullets, and which he does for the most part for himself. But then
really
Alana
didn't give a shit too much about Alana.
Yeah,
she got hit a couple times.
Exactly. But then Alana gets hit, and then basically he just like zones out and goes into a literal like berserker rage mode and starts annihilating these soldiers. And it's so good.
His face the second he went into it was so good.
Yeah.
And the backdrop of red.
His face almost turns into like Palpatine in episode 3, like when he reveals that he's the Sith Lord, it turns like all corrupted and dark and
Well, I want to go back to what Christian said, because that's a really good point, how the background just turns red. This fight is happening in broad daylight, like you can see clear blue skies, and then as soon as that switch gets flipped, it just looks like a fiery sunset behind, and it's so evocative. It's so good.
It reminds me of, I don't know for a fact, y'all have never played this game before, but like there's a game that it's a really dope like action game that I played like growing up called Wet, and essentially it's about a mercenary and who's a badass, and she's awesome. But there are scenes in the game where like basically these arena scenes where it would be a cutscene where she gets shot in the face, and then like so she gets shot, she shoots someone in the face like point blank, and blood gets on her, and then like it's like a rage mode activates, and like the background everything's all red, and like she's like a black silhouette, and it reminds me of this.
Yes,
and it's just like, you know that game? Like you heard of that game?
I know it.
Okay, yeah. So that's what it reminds me of. But yeah, it basically like when I read this, because when you see Marco, like he did like, could you get that? He made. I thought like he was in the war, but like maybe he didn't. I didn't think he was like in the shit. No. I thought like I assumed like, because it makes you think like K-Ball makes you think, oh yeah, like maybe he just doesn't like violence. Maybe just like he was just like he doesn't like violence, but like maybe he was in the war like as an obligation, which he was. But like at the end of the day, you see like why he doesn't like to draw his sword, because he will fucking murder you. Like you see like what the war has done to him. Like, you know.
What makes this interesting? Oh, sorry. What makes this interesting is it establishes that Marco is probably the most dangerous character in the entire series. Like, he's more skilled than the Will, than Robot. Like, and that stays throughout the entire series. And the only thing limiting him from ending these threats is himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like the really overpowered character, but suppressing himself because he knows he's too overpowered. That's done so many times, and it kind of is like a cliche. But in this, it felt really, really good.
Because
and yeah, I'm not really 100% sure why it hit different. I've been trying to figure that out.
Maybe it's the dynamic between him and Milana.
I think what they did is they just focused on the character himself and like really hammered down that he's just a pacifist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, like split second, complete and utter contrast. And I think that's why.
What's also interesting is like he's overpowered, but like one pierce to his shoulder put him out of commission like two issues before.
That's also the thing, yeah. They really did add up as like human, and it really emphasizes like you could die at any minute.
And that no matter who is the main villain or no matter who's on scene, they're all human. And like anyone could kill
mortal.
Yeah, all it takes is one bad move. And you're
exactly. Dead. But most importantly, I think like this action sequence with Marco literally like just cutting off limbs and just kicking ass and just crazy. Is that like don't underestimate the pacifist, like presumably fragile character because you don't know their whole story.
Don't fuck with the healer. No one fucks with the healer.
Exactly.
And as awesome as it is, I also feel like it also serves as a bit of a horror scene. Like, it is very brutal. It's very shocking. And towards the end, like, you are afraid of what Marco is doing because you know Marco is going to regret it the rest of his life. Like, this is like a scene that's going to be carried with him as baggage for the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. And whenever this happens, where Marco gets into that rage, like, you're more fearful of what he is going to do to them than what they are going to do to him, because it's going to be him that hurts himself afterwards, like through like beating himself up mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to answer a question for my sister. Did you talk about the intervention?
No, not yet.
Okay.
All right. So after that, after this fight scene, why he's like the end of the fight is like the panel basically like about to like chop this motherfucker's head off, and then Alana shoots the gun away like, honey, stop, like the fight is won, you're done, like gotta chill out.
No, she shoots him.
Yeah, he shoots him. Yeah, my fault. She shoots him
with the heartbreaker.
Yeah, with the heartbreaker. And then like I love the look on his face. He's just like, holy shit, like what did I do? Like it's like he was in a trance the whole time. That's what it looks like. And he's like, damn, like as you said, he's gonna live with this for the rest of his life. And
I feel so bad. When you said that, immediately thought of Steve Urkel being like, did I do that? I hate where my mind goes sometimes.
What's interesting is this isn't like a one-off thing either. Like that, this scene's actually very integral, and we'll find out in the future why, to the character of Marco.
Yeah. All right. So to transition, it transitions to the Will. About to like get this girl the fuck out of here. He's going to long-term parking to like find his shit to get the hell out of there to like rescue this girl, and they come across her owner, who is known as I think it's like Sun Mommy or something like that.
Oh, I hate that name.
Is it Sun Mommy or like Sun Mama?
I'm trying to look it up right now.
Something Sun, because how she's dressed, she has
Mama Sun. There we go. Yeah, Mama Sun, and there's basically like this purple woman in like this gold like BDSM type type of outfit with like a sun like helmet, and it's like, okay, that like more weird shit from like Fiona Staples. Brian came on. But essentially she basically says, you can't take my property, it's my property, and he's like, okay, but I want to, because she's a little girl, and he's like, listen, she's under contract, blah blah. And basically she's just like, what if I just buy her instead? It's like, you know what, that could be arranged because we confiscated your card anyway. So we'll just make that transaction real quick. And he's just like, okay, oh shit, there may not be money on this card. I need to like contact someone just in case so I can make quick money. And then he contacts the stock.
Well, what's also interesting is originally Will's plan was just to kill the person in front of him to get into a ship, because like that's just how he functions. Is he thought it'd be easier to kill whoever was in front of him than pay for the release of the girl. And he only the only hindrance in that was that if the girl leaves her like bloodstream, there's a potion running through it, and if she leaves the planet without them wanting her to, it will just like turn into almost concrete.
Here's what the girls look like for our viewers. I don't know if I showed this one. This was from the 3rd issue.
Mm-hmm.
So innocent. But anyway, yeah, so going off of that, they essentially Alana and Marco take the ship that the Landfallian soldiers who were sent after them they use the ship to go to continue their journey to the Rocketshire Forest. And then I like this scene a lot where like basically like shit's popping off, like they're trying to go to the forest, and then like Hazel laughs and they're just like, oh my gosh,
So
like
freaking cute. So freaking
it's so adorable. And it's just like, and I love their conversation after this because like it feels so real. It's like, oh my gosh, like she laughed, like she hasn't really like done nothing but crying this entire time. Like and then like I love Marco's like I didn't know like Marco, like I love what Marco says, like I didn't even know newborns could do that.
Yeah.
And it's just like
is a large reason why this comic is palatable. Just like the brief moments of happiness that you get from seeing Hazel just exist. And I feel like that's very intentional because she's also what gives hope to the main cast. Like, it also gives you enough willpower to continue reading this book. That's very, very much so heavy besides that.
Yeah. And then essentially like in Alana basically like in the ship basically like it's okay, like you know what, our daughter laughed. We heard our daughter laugh for the first time. Even though we killed a bunch of those soldiers, at least we escaped. So like there's that. And then she's like, today was a good day. And then little did we know it transitions that stuff is right like it's literally like at the scene where Marco like messed up all those people. So she's basically like the stalk's right behind them. And that's when we get the call from the Will being like, hey yo, do you want to like partner up on this? He's like, even though I denied you the first time. And then she was just like, nah, because like I'm about to get these dudes. You're no, you had your chance. And then when basically like she's on the phone like with the Will, and then she comes across Prince Robot the Fourth, and essentially he's like, hey yo, like state yourself, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. And essentially the soldier who gave him the book is along for the ride with him, and essentially sees like that like she like as like the stock and him are talking like like to like ease the tension. She notices that the stock is about to pull a weapon on him. Yeah, pulls a weapon on him with her limb, and and then essentially Prince Robot gets turned his hand into a gun cyborg style and shoots her right in the chest, and that's when it shows the big splash page at the end where it's just a stock on like the ground with a hole in her chest, and the Will's still on the phone.
But what was interesting is that if you look at her hands, there are no weapons.
Yeah. So where does she put them?
Probably on her back.
You're asking too many questions.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
yes and no. She was just reaching.
Yeah.
I hadn't gotten to the weapon yet, but you do see that she's got like on her holster spot for a knife. So that's probably what she was reaching for.
Right.
I wouldn't put it past her to actually try to kill Prince Robot.
Yeah.
God, she's so gross.
I love how this scene sets up is like Prince Robot before this. You don't see him in action, but you through the narrative you fear the stock. The stock's a very powerful enemy. So by having Prince Robot just stroll up and murder the stock, that automatically establishes to the audience that Prince Robot is at least on par or above the stock without having him do any work that wouldn't make sense for his character beforehand.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that's how it ends. Any last thoughts on issue 5?
The phone is an Easter egg, and I hate it. Like a Easter egg, and I just hate the design of it. That's all I have. Yeah. Ready to move on to the next one?
I'm good. So yeah, Lynn, you want to do issue 5?
Issue 6.
Issue 6, my fault.
So we jump back to Alana and Marco again, and they have finally reached the rocket ship forest. And when they get there, it's just all burned to the ground. There's absolutely nothing there. And they're like, oh, of course, that's our luck. Of course, there's no magic rocket ship. And it's at this point you learn how Isabel's soul bond with Hazel works. And she just pops out every night, ready for babysitting duty. And she sees that they're upset and goes like, wow, you guys are kind of dumb. You believe everything you see, and gets rid of the illusion of the burn, or of everything being burned down, and the rocket ship is there, fully made out of wood. It's so incredible.
It's the coolest rocket ship I've ever seen.
So freaking cool.
Yeah. So good.
It's a living thing too. The rocket ship.
It's completely sentient. It does what it wants.
It's because I love this because like it's a very different take. Obviously, it's clearly a very different take on a rocket ship, because obviously when we think of rocket ships, they're like technological and scientific, but no, this is one that's made out of wood and runs with magic, and it's like that's unheard of. I've never heard of that before reading this book.
I think that's one of the best things about the series is just the relationship between magic and science. Magic is science, and science is magic.
Ryan and Fiona have made a very unique world, and they don't ever take the easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
It always seems like they purposely make sure to subvert any tropes that could exist in order to make something that's uniquely theirs, and that would make sense in their world. Like you might hear a plant spaceship, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in any other universe that wouldn't make sense, but in this universe, like it makes perfect sense for a magic powered plant rocket ship to be there. Like you don't even question it.
Yeah. No, and I love that Isabel's just like, man, I always wanted a tree house when I was little.
And like, Brandon, this girl is lucky as hell for getting one this big. That's a rocket ship.
So then we cut back to Prince Robot. The other soldier is like, I'll back you up on that one. Like she was definitely reaching for something. You don't have to worry about being under fire for that.
He brushes it off so quickly. He's like, oh yeah, she's dead.
Whatever. Meanwhile, the Will is still on the phone call, and he's like, I need your help. There's this girl, it's a bad situation. She's too young. I'm trying to get her out of this. And Prince Robot picks it up and is like, who the hell are you? And he goes, I'm sorry. I just killed your associate. No hard feelings. It was just business. It is what it is. And the Will is just like, you know what? I've decided I'm going to kill you. That's my life duty now.
He has his own taken moment. Like it's.
He says, listen to my voice, boy. I aim to murder you right after I murder everything you love. Yeah. Like he is out for blood.
All right, Liam Neeson. Shit.
And
boy just makes it hit so much different.
The call hangs up and Prince Robot's just like, man, all of these people are psychopaths. Like they can't stand it. Then you get a shot of the Will being all sad because he was in love with the stock and now she's dead.
Yeah.
Something else, just like on the note of spaceships, the stock's spaceship is made out of a giant dragon's head.
That's what I wasn't sure if that was the case. I was like, am I seeing a skull or something?
Yeah. I think that's in a couple of pages. Yeah.
This comic book, I think I said it before, but it very much follows the rule of cool. Like, if they have something that isn't going to play that much into the plot, like a spaceship design, they will just make it as cool as possible. Like, it doesn't have to follow any conventional logic of the universe. They'll just coolness comes first, which is very fun.
So we head back to the rocket ship. They're trying to go inside, and Isabel's like, hold on. You can't just walk in there. This is a living, sentient thing. It wants you to offer something up. It has to be something special. So Marco offers up his sword, which is, he's made this vow to not be violent, and, the sword is important because it's a family heirloom. And he breaks it, and the doors open up, and it lets them in. And that's when you get the scene that Mikey showed earlier of the foyer.
I'm gonna put it back up again, but continue.
It's
just a nice quote he says real quick, like before he gets into that. A really nice quote he said is, when a man carries an instrument of violence, he'll always find justification to use it. I thought that was a very, very unique quote from him.
Mm-hmm. It's so
but then,
good.
I was a little sad. I'm like, it was a cool ass sword though. Like, it was so cool.
It is, but then again, more quotes. He goes and says, "It's still just a thing. Like, you guys are my family now. Like, that's all that matters."
Mm-hmm.
A really cool thing. Blue flames.
So as soon as they get in, the rocket ship starts taking off, and they're like, "What the hell is happening?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, that's ignition. By the way, you can't control this. It's going where it wants to. You can try to talk to it, but no promises."
Literally, she was just like Alana's like, "Where's the wheel?" Then Isabel's like, "Where we're going, there is no wheel." And it just starts.
Yeah. No, exactly. So they're trying to figure out where they want to go. And Alana says, "Oh, well, maybe we can visit Quietus." And which is this lighthouse planet. And she's like, "Well, it's never too early to think about your kid's education. I want her to meet the smartest person on Earth or in the universe." And it cuts there. That's when you get to see the super awesome rocket ship for the stock. And you get an interaction between Prince Robot and his agent, the guy with the bat wings. I always forget. Special Agent Gale is his name.
Yeah, there we go.
And he kind of just goes over the situation. You get the implication that Prince Robot has run into Marco's family, because he says, no, I'm getting ahead of stuff. I'm filling things in with my brain. Forget I said. But he basically just says that they're being harder to track down than normal, but that Marco's a force, quote, a force of fucking nature, but it's the mother who really frightens me. And I love that quote so much.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, he's looking at the trashy romance novel, and it shows the author of the book in the back. It's sort of that classic portrait, and it says he lives on Quietus, which Alana just said that she wanted to go there. And
the smartest person in the universe.
Yeah, Prince Robot just puts two and two together, and there's the implication that he's like, okay, this is where I need to go next. You get some more cool shots of the ship. One of the funniest photos of Hazel as Marco lifts her up to the window to show her the stars.
Yeah, it's a little thing.
She's got a little nuppies on top. It's the cutest thing. She's always got a derpy face and drooling, and it's so good.
Yeah, she has no clue that she's looking out into space. She's just
at that point, babies are just a sack of potatoes. So
yeah, word.
And they do a really good job of showing that, that there's somehow so much personality, yet no personality at all, and it's so great. So immediately
the in-laws show up.
Yeah, they're getting settled in, and the whole place turns blue. And Isabel's like, "Oh shit, there's magic coming!" And these two people just pop up in the middle of the room, full armor, weapons out, yelling, and they
blow up Isabel.
Yeah, they vaporize Isabel.
Murk her. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's so hilarious. They start fighting, and Marco's just like, "Stop, stop. This is my family. This is my kid." Like, he holds up Hazel, and she's just like, eh. And you get narration from Hazel on the next full splash page that says, "And then my grandparents came to live with us."
I love that, like, because it makes you think like, oh, they just got fucking raided, and it's just like, oh shit,
there's so much tension there.
Yeah, they
just got fucking
in like pirates, and then
I was like, oh wait, no, it's just my grandparents. It's fine. I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
And then literally, like, the dads just like they're actually just like, oh, because obviously they didn't realize that they had a fucking kid, especially a hybrid.
Yeah.
And the grandma is not too happy about it.
Not at all. The grandpa's kind of like, oh, I guess this is what's happening now, but she's immediately just like, everything about this is disgusting, and I don't want to be here, and you're better than this.
Which
they're still very much in the culture that it's an us versus them thing.
Like, I love the way, like, Fiona Staples, like, especially, like, going again, which we've said multiple times, the way she does, like, expressions and stuff. Just these two expressions off, like, Marco's mother and father, you can tell just alone, without any words, like, what they're about, how their personalities are, which I think is so great.
Fiona Staples does sure take her time with these, though. Like, there's like always a good 1 to 2 year hiatus every like 20 or so issues, I think.
Yeah, the current hiatus has been going on for 2.5 years, I believe.
That's rough.
Damn.
There's been rumors that it might pick back up again soon, but I'm not trying to get my hopes up.
I was learning how to drive the last time an issue came out.
You're just a baby. I always forget when we get new members.
All right.
So yeah, that's 6 issues.
Final thoughts.
Next week, it's really going to ramp up, and we get to meet my favorite character ever, Gus. That's Gus with an H and a U with the dots.
Okay,
that's so funny.
I've always called him Goose.
Yeah, I always call him Goose. I don't call him Gus.
I like Gus.
What we're talking about, because I didn't read that far.
Yeah, no, Christian doesn't know what we're talking about, but like, yeah, it's another character that's gonna be great.
If you guys want to smile, look up Gus. Saga.
All right. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the next 6 chapters.
It ramps up a lot.
Yeah, from here, like, there's no calming down. Every 6 issues, there's more shit coming.
Yeah, it's a lot of I like this a lot. There's a lot of insight and perspective on stuff that obviously me and Christian weren't aware of. So,
how far have each of you gotten?
I've gone up to like issue 20. I've gone up to like 20.
Okay.
I've gone up to the giant ogre penis.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
I didn't take a break.
I'm good for it all. Okay.
Yeah.
The giant ogre penis was all improv by Fiona.
Yeah.
Really?
Very
imaginative.
He was just like, he said, draw something disgusting like a giant ogre, and then Fiona just like let her imagination run wild with the page.
No,
its testicles are so big.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting like midnight texts from you guys being like, holy shit, this just happened. Oh my god.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it, guys. The first 6 issues of volume 1 of Saga. If we scarred any of you, I'm sorry. If we've enlightened any of you, great, and encourage y'all to read. So
if you aroused any sexual awakenings, we also apologize.
We encourage you to get help if that happened, because that should not be happening.
Yeah, so we're gonna continue with this with episode 2. Next week we're gonna do this every Saturday. With volume 2, which should be issues 7 through 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just did mental math.
Be prepared to cry.
Yeah, okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, I can't wait. Woo!
Yeah.
I mean, you should be prepared to cry with every issue.
Yeah, like there's no like you
I
just,
also feel like I've been thinking about this for a while. Like we should have like a bonus episode of like why this comic should not be adapted at all. Like,
I
have a bonus
I
of you guys reading an important issue for the first time and seeing your reactions.
okay, yeah, that'd be fun.
that'd be cool to do a live reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous that you guys get to read it for the first time.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wish I could read it for the first time again. It was so good. I binge read it like.
Yeah. Well, I read up to issue 20, so like I already know what happens in the first 20 issues. Christian just started, so like
That's nothing. No,
Exactly. You're a third of the way through.
I know.
I really wish that I had like read more just so I could have better formed opinions on it. I could chime in a little bit more.
Good
you know?
balance. It's interesting to see like your perspective of someone who's never read it before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair. But that definitely sounds like a fun idea. Seeing my reactions to some shocking stuff. Because fuck, that ogre really. From the beginning, I was shocked.
Yeah.
From last time I read, I was shocked. It was a pretty interesting read. Mikey's been recommending me this for I don't even know how long. Mm-hmm. And whenever he recommends me stuff, I'm always like, yeah, okay, it's hit or miss. But this, it was a hit. I was very happily surprised in how good it was.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you're reading it. Saga is hands down my favorite series.
Yeah. So should we close this off then?
Yeah, man. Should we do the same intro? Should we do the same outro that we do?
I've done a podcast before. I don't know what the outro is.
No, we just made it up yesterday.
So get them safe, you guys.
Yeah. No, I wasn't it. No, it was not it.
It wasn't it.
You were literally just like you're just like going down like stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, don't look in the toilet seats. Like,
all right, children, remember due to this COVID, don't be kissing random strangers. Always wear a mask. Get that hand sanitizer. Use as much as you can. Don't lick doorknobs. And most importantly, get home safe.
And to quote my favorite YouTuber, wash your damn hands. All right, guys. Peace. Get home safe.
I get home safe.
Yeah.